Sally Field truly hated him more than anyone. Now we know why. Before she was America's sweetheart, she was just a shy girl from Pasadena, quiet, uncertain, and caught between Hollywood dreams and family chaos. Born Sally Margaret Field on November 6, 1946, her world was already steeped in show business. Her mother, Margaret Field, was an actress, and her stepfather, Jock Mahoney, was a stuntman and actor. But fame didn't come easily. Behind the camera lights and family fame, young Sally faced emotional struggles and the turbulence of a blended home. She often felt invisible, shy, insecure, and unsure of her place. Yet somehow, her raw talent and undeniable spark refused to stay hidden for long. Before she became an Oscar-winning legend, Sally Field was just a bright-eyed girl chasing dreams in Van Nuys. Fresh out of Birmingham High School, she stepped onto a TV set that would change her life forever. In 1965, America met the bubbly teenager with the $1 million smile. Gidget, the show's beachy charm and Sally's infectious energy made her an instant favorite, even though it lasted just one season. But it was enough to launch her into stardom. Then came The Flying Nun, 1967 to 1970, a quirky hit that turned her into a household name. Playing Sister Bertrill, the joyful nun who could literally soar through the sky, Sally brought warmth and humor to every episode. Yet behind the smile, she felt trapped, adored by audiences, but boxed in by her own success. She didn't just want to be cute, she wanted to be taken seriously. It was the moment Sally Field decided she'd had enough of being America's sweetheart. Beneath the perky sitcom smile burned a woman desperate to prove she was more than just a TV darling. Determined to break free from the limitations of her early roles, she threw herself into serious training under the legendary Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, the same man who had shaped the greats of Hollywood. That decision changed everything. In 1976, Field stunned audiences in the made-for-TV film Sybil, playing a young woman battling dissociative identity disorder. The performance was raw, haunting, and utterly transformative, a revelation that earned her an Emmy Award and shattered every preconceived notion about who she was as an actress. For the first time, Hollywood stopped underestimating Sally Field. The sitcom girl was gone. In her place stood a dramatic powerhouse. And just 3 years later, she would silence every remaining doubter with her Oscar-winning role in Norma Ray, the story of a Southern factory worker who finds her voice and fights for justice. It wasn't just a performance, it was a declaration. It was the moment that sealed her legacy. When Sally Field stood on that Oscar stage, tears in her eyes, and said the words that would echo through Hollywood history. "You like me. You really like me." That raw, emotional outburst wasn't just a thank you speech. It was a victory cry from an actress who had spent years fighting to be taken seriously. Her performance, bursting with authenticity, grit, and heart, had struck a chord with both audiences and critics, earning her the Academy Award for Best Actress. But Field's triumph was only the beginning. Through the 1980s, she proved she was more than a one-hit wonder, taking on roles that revealed her remarkable range. She lit up the screen alongside Burt Reynolds, her real-life love, in Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, and The End, 1978. Their romance captivated fans and the media alike, making them one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples. Even after their relationship ended, Field's star only burned brighter. Her powerful performance in Places in the Heart, 1984, earned her a second Oscar, solidifying her place among the greats. And in Steel Magnolias, 1989, she once again captivated audiences, portraying a mother's resilience and heartbreak with breathtaking honesty. Through every role, every decade, Sally Field proved one unshakable truth. Her talent wasn't just liked, it was loved. It's hard to forget the woman who told us life is like a box of chocolates. In Forrest Gump, 1994, Sally Field's portrayal of Tom Hanks's loving mother became nothing short of legendary, tender, wise, and unforgettable. But Field wasn't done proving her versatility. She gracefully transitioned back to television, captivating audiences in ER and Brothers and Sisters, where her role as the strong yet vulnerable family matriarch earned her another well-deserved Emmy. Even in her 70s, Field refused to slow down. She dazzled on Broadway in The Glass Menagerie and brought depth and quiet power to Mary Todd Lincoln in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln in 2012, a performance that earned her yet another Oscar nomination. Off-screen, Sally Field has used her voice to champion women's rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and mental health awareness. Her 2018 memoir, In Pieces, stripped away the Hollywood glamour to reveal a woman shaped by pain, perseverance, and profound self-discovery. In it, Field opened up about her lifelong struggles with self-esteem and the complex relationships that shaped her, allowing fans to see the real person behind the performances. Her journey, marked by love, loss, and unyielding strength, proves that Sally Field isn't just a Hollywood legend. She's a living testament to resilience, authenticity, and the power of embracing one's truth. It was a time of transformation, both in Hollywood and in Sally Field's life. Fresh off the cheerful glow of Gidget and The Flying Nun, she was still America's sweetheart when she made a bold leap into adulthood, marrying Stephen Craig in 1968. Behind the smiles, though, was a young woman quietly fighting to break free from the bubbly TV image that had defined her. Their marriage unfolded during a period of deep change for Field, as she sought to reinvent herself, personally and professionally. By 1973, the two had separated, and 2 years later, they officially divorced. But from that union came Field's greatest treasures, her sons, Peter and Eli Craig. Both would grow up to carry the creative torch their mother lit. Peter became a celebrated novelist and screenwriter, penning hits like The Town, 2010, and Top Gun Maverick, 2022. Eli carved his own path as an actor and director, gaining acclaim for his cult classic, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, 2010. Looking back, Field often credits motherhood as her anchor amid Hollywood's chaos. She once said, "My boys kept me grounded. They were, and still are, my greatest source of pride." It was the kind of Hollywood romance that lit up screens and gossip columns alike. After her marriage to Stephen Craig ended, Field found herself swept into a whirlwind love affair with one of the biggest stars of the era, Burt Reynolds. Their story began in 1976 on the set of Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, a film that became a cultural sensation and turned them into one of the most adored on-screen and off-screen couples of the late 1970s. Their chemistry was electric, so much so that they reunited for 3 more films: The End, 1978, Hooper, 1978, and Smokey and the Bandit 2, 1980. But behind the laughter and box office success, their relationship was more complicated than it appeared. Field later revealed that while Burt was charming and magnetic, he also wrestled with control and vulnerability, struggles that slowly eroded their connection. By 1980, the couple officially split, though they continued their on-and-off dance for a couple more years before finally saying goodbye in 1982. Yet, the flame never truly went out. Decades later, both would speak of each other with tenderness and a touch of sorrow. In his 2015 memoir, Reynolds wrote words that captured their bittersweet bond perfectly. "She was the love of my life." Love, success, and chaos seemed to follow Sally Field wherever she went. After the stormy romance with Burt Reynolds, Field found herself once again navigating the tricky waters of love. In her 2018 memoir, In Pieces, she confessed that her past relationships had been as emotionally complex as the character she played on screen. Then in 1984, she found love anew,
this time with film producer Alan Greisman. By then, Field was no longer the struggling actress trying to prove herself. She was a two-time Oscar winner for Norma Rae, 1979, and Places in the Heart, 1984, one of Hollywood's most respected leading women. With Greisman, she welcomed her third son, Sam, in 1987, a moment that brought new joy into her already full life. She often spoke with glowing pride about Sam, who grew up to be a writer and passionate advocate, and about the deep, supportive bond within her family.
Despite her fame and relentless work schedule, motherhood always came first for Sally. She once described the balancing act between career and family as a beautiful chaos, hard but worth every second. Yet, as often happens in Hollywood love stories, the sparkle eventually faded. After 10 years together, Field and Greisman divorced in 1994, closing another emotional chapter in her life. But if her personal life had its share of turbulence, her professional one wasn't any calmer. Behind the cameras, one of her most talked-about on-set feuds brewed during the filming of Backroads 1981. Field and her co-star Tommy Lee Jones, two powerhouse talents, clashed fiercely. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable, but off-screen, sparks of a different kind flew. "I've worked with difficult men before," Field once said candidly, "but Tommy was something else entirely. He was impossible to deal with. I truly hated him more than anyone I'd ever worked with." Her raw honesty revealed not just the tension between two strong-willed performers, but the emotional exhaustion that came with standing her ground in the rough-and-tumble world of Hollywood. When the cameras rolled on Backroads, sparks flew, just not the romantic kind the audience expected. Sally Field and Tommy Lee Jones brought undeniable tension to the screen. But behind the scenes, that fire was far from fiction. Both stars were at defining moments in their careers. Field had already dazzled audiences with Norma Rae in 1979 and Smokey and the Bandit in 1977, while Jones was carving out his image as Hollywood's brooding powerhouse. But their chemistry wasn't born of passion, it was born of friction. Field later confessed that every glare, every sharp line exchanged between them came from a very real place. She said, "I wasn't pretending to be angry at him. I was." Their clash ran deeper than ego. It was a battle of artistic philosophies. Field approached acting with vulnerability and emotional connection, while Jones preferred a hard-edged, cerebral precision that often left little room for collaboration. He was intense, domineering, and unapologetically argumentative, qualities that clashed violently with Field's need for respect and empathy. She said, "He could be condescending, bluntly." What audiences saw as gripping realism on screen was, in truth, the raw edge of two powerful talents who simply couldn't stand each other. It was a clash of titans, two powerhouse actors, one film set, and enough pension to light up the screen. Sally Field later admitted, "He treated me like I didn't know what I was doing, and I had already won an Academy Award. It was insulting." From the moment filming began, the atmosphere on the Backroads set was suffocating. Crew members recalled long silences, sharp glances, and an almost tangible animosity between Field and her co-star Tommy Lee Jones. Ironically, that raw friction translated into electric chemistry on screen. Their love scenes burned with authenticity, and critics praised the film's emotional realism, unaware that much of it came from genuine resentment. Field confessed years later that she had weaponized her frustration. She said, "I used every ounce of irritation I felt toward Tommy to fuel my performance. It was cathartic in a strange way. But once the camera stopped rolling, she'd had enough." She said, "I couldn't stand being in the same room with him," bluntly. Jones, famously private and gruff, refused to fan the flames publicly. He brushed off talk of feuds as nonsense, yet insiders painted a different picture. His stern temperament, they said, often clashed with strong-willed co-stars, especially someone like Field, who wouldn't back down. One crew member summed it up perfectly. It was like watching two storms collide.
Years later, Field could look back on it with a touch of humor, but not forgiveness. She said, "I suppose he's a brilliant actor, but that doesn't mean you have to like the person. I didn't. In fact, I hated him." Her words cut through Hollywood's polished facade like a knife through silk. Fans admired her brutal honesty, the kind few stars ever dared to voice. Sally Field didn't hide behind pleasantries or nostalgia. She spoke with candor about a truth many in the industry whisper, but rarely admit. She said, "People assume actors become friends after filming. That's not always true. Sometimes you just survive it." The tension she described wasn't mere gossip. It was a raw glimpse into the storm that brewed behind the scenes of Backroads. Even decades later, the film is remembered less for its plot and more for the volatile chemistry between Field and her co-star Tommy Lee Jones, a partnership fueled by animosity rather than affection. Both went on to achieve remarkable success, her with Places in the Heart, 1984, and Steel Magnolias, 1989. He with The Fugitive, 1993, and No Country for Old Men, 2007. Yet Backroads remains a haunting reminder that brilliance on screen can rise from chaos off it. Field never softened her stance. She said, "He may be talented, but talent doesn't excuse cruelty. I'd rather work with anyone else." That unflinching statement, equal parts fire and grace, perfectly encapsulates who Sally Field is, a woman who built her legacy not just on talent, but on truth, passion, and the courage to say what others only dare to think.